Now, the Institute of Marine Affairs will be hosting its 7th Community Symposium on Tuesday, 20th September, that's today, at the Warrenville Regional Complex, themed Community and Ecosystem Connections, Improving Human Well-Being, Sustaining Livelihood. This symposium will provide the results of the studies conducted within the Caroni Swamp catchment area under the Caribbean Large Marine Ecosystem and Ecosystem-Based Management Regional Project. And so joining us to talk more about this is Acting Director of the IME, Dr. Rahana Juman, and Information Officer, Mr. Glendon Glasgow. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Now.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Juman, I'll start with you. The symposium will provide the results, of course, of the studies conducting under the Regional Caribbean Large Marine Ecosystem and Ecosystem-Based Management Project. Tell us a little bit more about the project.
Okay, so there is the Caribbean Large Marine Ecosystem Project as a regional project with regards to managing what we call shared living resources, fishes primarily that moves between countries. And the CLME Plus is when they recognize that a lot of the impacts were also coming from outside of the region. So they included the North Brazilian Shelf. Under the CLME Plus projects, there are a number of components, and one of the components is the implementation of an ecosystem-based management approach for addressing the impacts of land-based sources of pollutants on critical ecosystems, such as the Caroni Swamp, and the reason, such as mangrove swamps, such as Caroni. And the reason for that is because mangrove forests in particular, they basically provide us with a lot of ecosystem services. Primarily, they're habitats for fish and they're nurseries for commercial species of fish and shellfish. So IMA was doing some research on the Caroni Swamp with regards to its management and rehabilitation. And from previous work that we did, we recognized that in the southern part of the Caroni Swamp, which is the Guayama Punupia catchment area, that's the area where the water flow into the southern part of the Caroni Swamp, the main sources of pollution was coming from agriculture. So the whole basis of this project is to work with the community and the farmers to help reduce the impact of agricultural pollutants on the wetland so that we could rehabilitate the mangrove, but also to make sure that it could continue to provide all the goods and services and that it already provides to us.
Right. And the implications for this study, because you mentioned that sort of pollution from the agricultural sector. How has the conversation going with the farmers thus far? Are they understanding, their impact on the Caroni Swamp?
So we would have started this project a couple of years ago, and unfortunately, because of COVID, we weren't able to go back out and meet with the farmers. So we would have held a series of workshops. We would have surveyed the farmers, and there was a demonstration project that was conducted by the University of the West Indies, who we partnered with to look at alternatives to using chemical fertilizers and pesticides. So, I mean, this is an ongoing process. We're here to present some of the preliminary results and really start to further the discussion with the farmers in conjunction with NAMDAFCO, who we are also partnering with regards to good agricultural practices.
Nice, nice. I know Miss Debbie Singh is also always behind good agricultural practices. So I know that you're going to have a good partner in NAMDEFCO. Mr. Glasgow, I'm going to bring you in here because I want to switch gears to the symposium that's actually taking place today. Tell us a little bit about it.
So this is IME's 7th Community Symposium. It's going to be held at the Warrenville Regional Complex. We start at 3:30 p.m. where we're going to have a meet and greet session. We're going to have some refreshment, corn soup, to get persons really starting the discussion about the symposium and what are some of the findings coming out of the CLME project. Now, we would have chosen the theme, which is Community Ecosystem, Improving Human Well-Being and Sustaining Livelihood, because often persons may not really realize that the health of the environment has a direct impact on the ability for them to use or continuously use a particular resource. So it's all about, the symposium is also all about educating persons so that they would have information to make the best choices with regards to preserving the marine environment.
Nice. And in terms of the target audience, who is this symposium for?
Well, the symposium would really target the farmers that were engaged during the project, as well as the fishers and the crab catchers and the oyster harvesters, and even the tour operators within the Caroni River Basin area. We also invited other stakeholders from Central Trinidad, and it is really hoped, as Dr. Juman was saying, that we would have fruitful discussion, and this would really catalyze multi-stakeholder dialogue in charting the way forward.
Of course. And can you tell me who are some of the stakeholders? Because I know you would have mentioned that education aspect. Tell us who are some of the stakeholders and even who are some of the panelists maybe we can see at the symposium today.
Okay, so at the symposium, we have a lot of presenters from IMA. We have Ms. Nakia Gooding that will be presenting on the landscape and the hydrology, land use and farming community within the Caroni catchment area. We also have Dr. Daryl Banju from the Institute of Marine Affairs, and he will be focusing on nutrient pollution because, as Dr. Juman said, land-based source of pollution continues to be a problem within the Caroni catchment area. Externally, we have Mr. Christopher Alexander from NAMDEFCO that will be presenting as well.
Nice. Now I'm going to go back over to you, Dr. Juman, because I'm thinking about those findings that you mentioned. I know that this study would have focused on the catchment area. Will this have any effect on our scarlet ibis who actually use the Caroni swamp as well?
Well, definitely. So the Caroni swamp provides one of the biggest habitat for the scarlet ibis, which is now an environmentally sensitive species. So in order to conserve the species, manage the species, we have to protect the habitat. So it's towards protecting the Caroni swamp as a habitat, not only for the scarlet ibis, but for the oysters and the crabs and the fish and everything else that we generate from it, as well as for the tour operators who use it when they bring in the tourists and so forth. So again, it's about sustaining livelihoods and ensuring that it's there so they can continue to provide us, Trinidad and Tobago, with these services, you know, in terms of coastal protection, damage from storms, water quality maintenance, you know, for mangrove forests in particular and wetlands. They absorb a lot of the floodwaters and so forth. So we want to preserve the habitat so that it could continue to serve us, but we can't do it by ourselves. It's a collective effort, a multi-stakeholder effort, as Glendon indicated. So we need everybody on board.
Right. Now, I know that in recent months, you would have also seen, and I'm not sure exactly what would have caused this, if it's that people are dumping the carcasses there, but sometimes you would see like dead cats or dead animals in the Caroni swamp. Is this a benefit to the swamp? Is this a disadvantage? I mean, how is this affecting the ecosystem?
So, I mean, any dumping of garbage in the wetland is going to have a negative effect. And I mean, culturally, you know, Trinidadians had a way that when we want to get rid of it, we would throw it in a river. But many times it would end up in our wetlands, or it would end up on our beaches, the same beaches that we would go and bathe in later on. So we really need to address that, again, holistically, because we have to ensure that persons are provided with places to carry their garbage or their dead animals, so that they don't feel inclined to throw it in the rivers or on deserted areas and so forth, like on our protected wetlands.
Yeah. And Dr. Juman, is there an education aspect to it? Because I can't believe that somebody will take a dead carcass and go to Caroni swamp. So is it that people need to be taught how to dispose of waste? Is that basically what you're getting at?
Yeah, basically they have to know what options are available to them to dispose of waste in general. You know, whether it's solid waste or garbage, because, you know, we have a very, very big problem with solid waste in a lot of our coastal areas, particularly plastics. So there needs to be management of waste, where people put their waste, the collection of waste, and I think just basic education, because sometimes I think we don't make the link between when we get rid of something, it ends up somewhere else, and we're not finding that link. So it's a lot of outreach and education as well.
Now, Dr. Juman, one of the concerning things, and I know that you would have seen the headlines because it was trending that morning, was when the capybara was found in Port of Spain. And the gentleman who rescued the capybara would have said that maybe it came in from the Caroni swamp, maybe it came in from the swamp at the Beetham landfill. I mean, should we be concerned that these sorts of animals are coming through the wetlands?
Well, we have to know how it got here first, because they're not native to Trinidad. A lot of times, I don't know if people bring them across, or if they come across, there's discussions with regards to when we have large rainfall from South America, and the racks of garbage and litter and stuff come across the Gulf. They can actually be on those, right? So, but the capybara is not native, and one of the things with native species, I know that they're encouraging folks to basically
eat them.
take it out, eat them. Yeah.
I hope they don't eat them. I know the gentleman who rescued the capybara would have returned them to the swamp, and so that's why I'm wondering, should we be, cause for concern?
No, it's not native to Trinidad, and normally when it's not native, it could impact our local fauna. So in a situation like this, we would encourage folks, to eat it.
To eat it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Why eat it, Dr. Juman, rather than return it to the wetlands?
Because it's not native to Trinidad.
Because it's not native.
Yeah, so I don't know what the natural predators are for the capybara. I know it's the in the South American mainland, it's the anaconda and so on, but I don't know if we have that quantity of anaconda to keep the population under control.
Right, and I hope we don't have that quantity as well. Mr. Glasgow, I'm going to bring you back. I think you want to say something.
No, I was just chiming in on the conversation. It's also a rodent, and it tends to reproduce quite quickly. So trying to control it, is really a problem if it is you don't remove it by eating it or hunting it.
Right. And Mr. Glasgow, as I have you here one time, I mean, what are some of the outputs or the expected advantages or benefits you see from this symposium that's taking place today?
Well, one of the advantages would be that we'll begin to engage in dialogue, and it's very difficult to have an ecosystem-based management approach if it is you're not talking to the various stakeholders and finding out what are some of the concerns or what are some of the limitations with regards to preserving and maintaining a particular resource or marine area. So when we have this dialogue, hopefully we'll be able to get everybody to be on board and on the same footing going forward.
Right. And did the COVID-19 pandemic affect the study in any way?
Yes, because of the restrictions, we weren't able to go out and do the field work that we would have liked to, or engage with the farmers the way we would have wanted to. So now that we have the opportunity, we want to kind of resume and start back doing a lot of the engagement, as well as continue the monitoring of the water quality in particular.
Of course. And I know that you would have partnered with, of course, the tour operators, and you would have partnered with the farmers as well. But have any other state agencies come on board to help with this project?
So from the beginning, we engaged a lot of these state agencies. So there were collaborations, well, primarily with NAMDAPCO and the Ministry of Agriculture, but we also would have engaged the Water Resources Agency, drainage, EMA, and so on. So all these stakeholders, they all have a stake in terms of management of any ecosystem. So yes, we have engaged them, and we hope that they would also attend and come and listen to the concerns raised by the farmers, but also to have an idea of the results of our findings.
Of course. And finally, Mr. Glasgow, can you just tell us if the symposium is free and just remind us when and where it's taking place?
Right, so the symposium is free. It's free. It's at the Warrenville Regional Complex. We start at 3:30 p.m. and we're inviting even persons within the Endeavour and the Canoopia and the Felicity area to come down to the symposium. I mean, even if it is you have an interest in your ecosystem and how you may impact it or how it may be impacting you, you should come down to the symposium. So It starts at 3:30 p.m. and by 4 p.m. we'll be on our way.
Nice. So half an hour, short and sweet. Love it. Well, Mr. Glasgow, Dr. Juman, let me thank you so much for joining us on the Now Morning Show and just sharing about what the Institute of Marine Affairs has been working on, and all the best with the symposium that's taking place this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And this is how we close that segment of the Now Morning Show. We have so much more. Stay with us.